guys. So, welcome back to another session of Quadpod FPV sessions. I am joined with my boy Ryan, Syntheticfpv. What's up, Ryan?
Good, on you?
No complaints. And today we are unfortunately not joined by Jaden, but we are fortunate enough to be joined by one of the, I would say, Western Cape FPV legends, Mr JoshimFPV. How's it going, Josh?
I'm great. Don't know if I'm much of a legend, but definitely hope I can, add some positivity here.
Oh no, dude, it's awesome to have you on the podcast. Thanks for joining us. I don't know if you guys know, Josh actually is working in Saudi at the moment. He's busy doing his thing there. But I think you're coming back to Cape Town in August, eh?
Yeah, I'll be back in August.
Back in August and showing us what he's been doing. But how's the 3D helis going so far, man?
Hey, loving it. I've just actually built myself another one. Well, not built because I've bought it. I've come all the way back to South Africa in order to build this heli, but I'm looking forward to it.
Oh, that's good, man. That's good. All right, yeah. So on today's episode, we're just going to be touching again on a couple of the FPV side of things. I think let's start off with a couple of things. Boys, I've been wanting to ask this question over the time, but what do you guys rate is the importance of an OSD when you're flying an FPV drone?
Well, my views on OSD is it's quite important. For me, it always was, simply because I like to protect my batteries. I like to make them last as long as possible, because there was a stage where I was going through about 3 batteries a month that I would kill. They would last about 3 months on a pack, and then they would be completely dead. They would charge and everything still, but fly for 30 seconds, and they would start. What's the term you guys use when a battery starts to die?
Well, sag. It sags quite a bit.
That's exactly
where it doesn't normalize again, yeah.
Exactly. Sags out, takes forever to come back. So for me, OSD was always great. Always used to land at 14.6 as much as I possibly could. Obviously, racing is a very different story. You want to finish the race, and sometimes it costs you a pack to do that. So for me, OSD always helped me with that. I didn't particularly use the crosshair. I know a lot of the OSDs have that crosshair function. A lot of the guys use it. For me, I always just used to look at the top third about of the camera. I used to fly on about 65 degrees up tilt, so I liked it quite quick.
Damn, son.
OSD was very important to me, especially through the racing. Freestyle, not as important, but I still never really went without it.
Yeah. Yeah, no, like you said, OSD is very important when it comes to watching your battery voltage and the possibility of one cell always going is sometimes great depending on how old your pack is, and your individual cell display, especially in beta flights, can actually indicate that. So I had it where it indicated. But yeah, bro, I mean, OSD mainly for me, yeah, battery's good. I cannot fly without a crosshair. I have to have a crosshair for some reason. I always used to fly without one, and it was quite normal. And then I started using a crosshair, and for some reason, I don't know, my mind clicks to where the crosshair must be, and then where the quad will be at what speed I'm going.
It's a gaming thing, bro. I'm sure.
Yeah, it's like a gaming thing. Yeah, I mean, a couple of times where you don't necessarily aim your crosshair at the gate. You probably aim 2 meters, depending on what angle you're taking the gate. And you get used to where you actually putting your crosshair and then hitting that gate at where, you get used to the whole, like muscle memory basically, where the crosshair sits.
Yeah.
And then also very important, the RSSI display. Not so much with the racing side of things, but freestyle, especially if you're hitting a bando or going down a cliff, you really want to, take a good look at your RSSI before actually, trying to nail it down a cliff, and then halfway down it just immediately bombs out.
Yeah, that would suck.
Oh no, that's important.
But I, however, never actually used RSSI.
You Crossfire.
I had Crossfire, yeah, but before that, I never really used it. Even with the Crossfire, I never used it because I think I just became too, comfortable with how far that Crossfire could go.
Yeah.
No, I'd say, and if I had to ask you guys, speaking of voltage and that, on your OSD, do you guys prefer having? Well, let me actually ask it this way: do you guys look at your voltage, or do you look at the milliamps that you've pulled from your battery? Because I know some OSDs you can have voltage, and some OSDs, well, actually most OSDs you can have both. But I know some guys prefer looking at the voltage, and some guys prefer milliamps that's been drawn. So what do you guys think about that?
Voltage all the way, man.
Yeah, I prefer voltage. I mean, I got a buddy that swears if you've flown, let's say on a 1550, and you've flown close to that capacity on your milliamps on the OSD, he comes and lands, and then he's still sitting at like 14.8, 14.7, and to me that's still flyable. I don't know how accurate the milliamp draw is, but the voltage definitely very accurate.
Look, basically what I used to do is before I would come and land, because I know about voltage sags obviously and sort of thing, but before I would come land, I would hover the quad for a couple seconds just to allow that battery to recover, and then see what my voltage is at a hover. If it was at 14.6, I would land it. If it was above that, I would do one or two more tricks, depending how much above it was. But the problem I had with flying according to milliamp hour draw is batteries over time. As batteries get older, you're losing your milliamps. Batteries will run at
that's
a
also
2 month old battery will run at in the regions of 80s, 90s% wise of what it was when it was new. So you do lose milliamps over time, and that's why I say voltage all the way.
I must agree with you on that one. I think for me personally, if I have to talk about an OSD, obviously before I had Crossfire, I definitely ran it with an RSSI due to flying big fields and that. Although, I mean, I felt pretty comfortable with my FR Sky stuff because, I mean, I didn't push it for long range. That's why I upgraded to Crossfire for the long range stuff. But I'm also a crosshair person. I like my crosshair. Something that I do miss, and I need to actually get back in action on my OSD. And I'm actually a milliamp bitch. Unfortunately, which I actually need to start moving over to voltage, because I've noticed a few times when I come and land, and let's say I'm like, it's a 1500 pack, and I come and land at, let's say, 800 milliamps. And then I still see that battery is sitting at 14.8 or 14.9, and like Josh said, you can still get that extra flip in, or that extra, or let's say that gap that you've wanted to hit. If it's a close by gap, you just quickly go smash it. So I think that's something I'm going to take into consideration moving forward on my side as well. But crosshair for the win. I like my crosshair. When I had beta flight, also ran full crosshair. I mean, anything else on the OSD, I don't put. I suppose if you're racing, you can put your name on your drone, obviously for spectators and so forth. But I don't know. OSD is OSD, I guess. So it also comes down to personal preference at the end of the day, what you prefer and what you like. But and speaking of packs, I mean, what would you guys say? Like, if you had to break it up into the three categories of FPV, you get racing, freestyle, and then you get the long range guys. What would you guys say is, let's start off with racing. What would you guys say is a good suitable pack for racing? Like, if you had to recommend a person who's just about to start racing, and he's keen on, he's got a race drone, and now he's looking for a battery that can perform pretty well. Let's take into consideration the C of the battery and the milliamps of the battery. What would you guys recommend? Josh?
Well, for me, sorry, Lyle. Before we get to that, I just want to touch on one thing. You mentioned that when you watch your milliamp hour draw and you check your voltage once you've landed, you're still at 14.8 or so.
Yeah.
And I just want to stress one thing is you should check your voltage before you land while you're in a hover, because as soon as you land and you've killed the quad, you've disarmed, your voltage will increase. It will increase substantially compared to what it was before when you were just in a hover. So always check it in the air before you land, because if you check it when you're landing, you can take a decent 10% off that voltage, and that's where your voltage is actually sitting.
So what you're saying is you get a more accurate reading while you're hovering, while there's still a draw on the battery.
Absolutely.
Okay. Yeah, no, I'll definitely. That's why I said I think moving forward, I'll definitely look at using my voltage instead of milliamps. Because I mean, to be honest, I'm not a very technical guy, but I mean, dude, it doesn't really take anyone to figure out 14.6, 14.8.
Yeah.
And also, if you're flying like hardcore and you come in, your battery does tend to sag and pick up voltage again. So I definitely do hear you on that one, Josh.
Okay.
But yeah, going back to the packs.
Yeah, packs. I would say anything above 1300, depending on the weight of your rig. There's so many depending factors here. I mean, when I was flying the Americas, my rigs were sitting around just under 300 grams on a racing rig without the pack, obviously. And when you're that light, you still want a bit of weight to carry momentum. Okay, especially when you're in a like a slalom, for instance, you need that momentum to keep you going, to keep your slalom as tight as possible. Okay, as well as what do you call it when you bank a corner, when you basically go sideways through a gate or whatever it is.
Yeah, your knife edge.
You need your momentum for that. So when you got a light rig running, you can start going crazy with your packs. Really, you can start pushing up to 1800s, 2000s, especially these new R-line packs that have come out, the version 3s. Those are much lighter than their predecessors. You know, your standard HV version 2.
Yeah.
You know, that pack. You can really start going crazy with your milliamp hours, so that you can get as much flight time as possible. Also, if you take into account the fact that the pack has more milliamp hours, means its C rating it's more capable of reaching the C rating it's built for, right? For a longer period of time, because it has more milliamp hours. I don't know if I'm getting this point across, but if you're going to get onto a racetrack, you take off and you're basically full throttling through that entire track, your battery's going to sag out a lot faster if it's a 1300 than it will if it's a 2000.
Yeah, no, I can agree on that.
But I'll say that C rating is more deliverable on a bigger pack. But then we start looking at weight, right? If your quad's a bit heavier, you start going down on battery size so you can stay in that competitive range of weight that the other pilots are using. But always make sure that you have enough to get through your 3 laps or 4 laps or however long this track is that you are racing, you know?
Yeah,
So
no,
I must add that now the racing tracks are getting quite lengthy. They are really getting quite long. So yeah, like you said, when you look at the weight factor, you got a light quad. You can play around with the bigger batteries. But also now you're kind of limited in a sense of you can't really, or you don't really want to play around because you've got a much longer track that you need to complete. I mean, especially for the new guys, bro. I mean, including myself, I couldn't fly at national. I mean, I was hurting my 1550s. You know, miss a gate, you need to turn around, hit the gate again.
Yep.
So my batteries were getting quite hurt. I mean, it would have been perfect if I had a 1800. I mean, but obviously when you get a little bit more competitive, you don't miss as much. But then you got the fact of constantly lying full throttle, you know. So yeah, I don't know, bro. It's kind of like when it gets to that point, you kind of need to eye it the day and see how long the track is and what your consumption is.
Definitely.
It's also true.
You feel a track out. Okay.
Yeah.
What I used to do is if I wasn't getting through a track, I would HV charge my batteries, which is not the right thing to do, but
no one heard that. No one heard that. It's fine.
Nobody heard that. Because some days I just couldn't get it through a track and remain competitive. I would literally fall out the last couple corners or gates of the track, and it's just nothing I could do about it. And so what I did is I stopped HV charging because I got caught with it. I didn't get into trouble really. They just said, "No, you're not allowed to HV charge," and I was like, "Oh, I don't know," but I did know,
Yeah.
Anyway,
always play dumb.
charging.
Always play dumb. Gets
Always,
you for.
yeah. Rather apologize than ask for permission. Sure. But so I stopped HV charging and I dropped some prop size. And then over time, I started working on building lighter rigs. There was a time, especially in the beginning, where I was racing with 500 grams plus quads without the battery. And that's what was holding me back. So I started pushing to more lighter rigs, started practicing a lot more, obviously. And yeah, my pack started lasting longer towards the end because of the way I set up the quads. But in the beginning, I mean, as soon as you start pushing, really pushing and practicing every day, you're going to go through packs. You're going to look at 3 packs a month or so. It's just one of those costs of racing at the end of the day. It was, however, that for me, at least. I know some guys like Jaden, for instance, will sit for an entire year on a set of packs. And he races a lot harder than I do. There was a time where I was close, I would say, but I was never ahead of him. And he managed to make packs last. So at the end of the day, he would have been the perfect guy to have in here to tell everybody, this is how you need to treat your packs because they'll last.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, maybe I'd ask that advice to him, but how to make a quad last? That's the last person you want to ask.
Yeah. Look, I really don't do any racing. I think I've maybe messed around on a track once or twice, so I wouldn't even know what to suggest about racing. But I can speak a little bit about freestyle. I think if I have to touch on bases with freestyle, the perfect pack for me is between a 1300 and a 1550. Especially if I have to recommend, with the quads that have top mounts on the frames. I love the weight ratio that's balancing the quad, especially with those packs. Your 1300s and your 1500s. With regards to the C rating, I mean, I've never really taken that into consideration. But I mean, sure, freestyle 1500, 1300. That's where I'm at. I mean, what would you guys say is a good pack for freestyle?
I would say in any situation, a high C pack was the be all and end all. But a high C pack is more capable of handling what you throw at it, and it will last longer at the end of the day. If you take a 45C pack and you start getting good at your maneuvers and you start really ripping a quad, you're going to eat that pack up.
And you're going to find the laziness at the end of the day. Like the quad's going to be lazy when you try and catch it from like a split S or something.
Exactly, yeah. It's going to hold you back. That's true.
I mean, well, most of my packs are 75C. I got some 95Cs there. And to me, I enjoy 75C because I'm not really hammering the battery to its capacity. My like style of flying is very like chilled, flowy. I'm not really doing all this Mr. Steel whips and buzzing around a park. I like to have a scenic. Yeah.
Give it time.
No. Look, if I really want to, bro, like put it on 45 and bang it, bro. But no, to me, I just enjoy. How can I put it? Like tranquility of just flying scenically.
Yeah,
if that's even a word, scenically.
Enjoy the flow. Yeah, enjoy the flow.
Yeah. I mean, I got the 2 packs of the fun flyers. The 1300.
Hey, they're not bad, eh? They're not bad.
They can take a punch, bro. I mean, I've flown those things way down to where my quad drops out the sky.
Jeez,
and I charge it up and I get the exact amount of flight time out of it. I haven't checked resistance yet on the battery, but I mean, they really can take a hammering. It's 100C 1300. But to me, look, a 1300, like Joshim explained, it's a 1300 100C, right? If I had to take off and literally just punch out, just full throttle it, maybe for, let's say 6 or 7 seconds, I'm already getting a low battery warning on my OSD. I don't know, fun flies to me, I literally use them just to scope out an area, like just scope out a bando.
You know?
yeah, fun to fly. But other than that, I won't hit a bando with it and try do what I usually do. Then I move to my 50s, 75s.
Yeah, I can agree with you on that. They're more like warm-up packs. I mean, if I do a freestyle, I always start off with my 1500 pack fun fly because it's more of like a warm-up pack for me. And then I move to the other packs. But yeah, no, I definitely agree with you on that one. And then coming to long range, I mean, sure, this is going to be a bit of a well, look, for me, long range, I've been testing the waters a little bit with long range. Yeah, I could definitely say make sure that you haven't really got the heaviest quad, because it's when you're coming back, your asshole makes a bit of a 10-cent 5 range,
Yeah.
And you chew whatever you whether your ass is chewing the air or whatever, bro. But damn, man. But what do you guys take? What do your guys take about long range? Josh, I would like to actually hear your opinion about this, specifically because of the shit that I've seen you do. What is your intake like with regards to 4S? Because I know you've done 6S long range, but with regards to 4S, because I know a lot of the guys haven't really done 6S long range.
They don't enjoy 6S because 6S is expensive and batteries are consumable, unfortunately.
Well, I've got something to say about that too. But moving on to the 4S long range, I did do a little bit of that. But just to give you a little bit of my long range background is I never went hectic into it. I went far for sure, but I never went hectic into long range because I never bought a 7-inch quad. I never played with, different 7-inch props, 6-inch props, all that sort of thing. I did my long range with a 5-inch. And I got flight times of 14-15 minutes.
Yep, I can definitely vouch for that.
Yep. And it was all down to playing with the equipment I had at the time and what I was willing to actually use, because my whole plan in the beginning was to build something that was 6S capable but also 4S capable, and which was low KV motors. 1700 X Nova 2207s were my perfect motor. They are 2207, sorry. So they are kind of battery hungry, but like I say, 14-15 minute flight time out of a pack on 4S, and that's an 1800 pack, which I flew pretty slow and in good conditions. Not much wind and so on, and that's how I got that flight time that I got. But my 4S long range experience is limited, but it's not too bad. I would recommend low pitch props, as light a setup as you possibly can go, and then 4S battery, low KV motors, and just cruise. You need to get up to a cruising speed, because when you're at a cruising speed, you're getting more airflow over the, the spinning direction of the props. If you have wind coming from the front, something called the gyro effect, like helicopters, gyrocopters, they use that. The main blade spins at a constant RPM of however many thousand RPM that is. Okay, and it's got another motor that's the drive force of the gyrocopter, which propels it forward, and the wind coming from the front is actually what creates the lift over that blade as it spins it around. Okay, and I don't know if I'm explaining this properly.
I hope you're explaining it properly, because I wouldn't know.
It creates lift by pushing the gyro's blade when it's at a certain angle to keep the momentum through so that blade keeps spinning, and it becomes a wing. So if you're just going to hover, you've got no assistance from the wind coming from the front to help turn your props. Okay, so you will use more battery in a hover than you will in a constant forward flight.
So the tip there is just to keep the cruise, keep the momentum going, keep
get
it
into
at
cruise
one.
No hectic maneuvers, no punching out. Just try and find that sweet spot where you're constantly moving, but you're not pushing the quad, you're not forcing it to move forward, and forcing speed, and you're also not letting the quad come to a hover. You're just cruising. That's your most efficient flying spot. It's like a car at 120. If you're going to drive 100 kilometers in first gear at 30, you're not and low revs, you're not going to use less fuel than you will at 120 in fifth gear, for instance. So I don't know if that makes sense.
Just to also add on your subject there, what is the perfect camera angle for long range?
I was flying it
perfect camera
probably
angle.
with the 4S. Like I say, at that cruising speed, I was probably at 10 degrees. Very low, because as soon as you start going high, you're obviously going to consume more battery. You're forcing the quad forward.
Yeah. I'd also say between 10 and 15, 10 and 15, definitely.
Yeah, with 4S, I definitely wouldn't go as high as 15. I would stay around 10, between 8 and 10 degrees. Very small margin there.
Yeah, Ryan, have you done any long range, man?
Well, at the moment, my transmitter doesn't allow it. I took Scott the QR7 Free Sky, and I took it out, when was it, on Monday. Got out about 700 meters, and I got a low RSSI warning. But it's very, very experimental still, the 7-inch that I'm busy flying. I got fantastic flight time in a little bit of a headwind. Look, I was flying in an oval, or let's say oblique shape, and every time coming back towards myself, I was flying into a little bit of a headwind. And I got on a 1550, it was 11.5 minutes. And this is the real shocker though. I was flying with 2205 2600 kV motor. With a 6-inch 43, 4.3, yeah, 6-inch 4.3 tri-blade.
HQ.
Yeah, HQ.
Yes, that's well done. Very well.
Yeah, dude. That's very good, bro. And you said it was a 7-inch or what? 5-inch? 7-inch?
Yeah, 7-inch. Yeah, it's kind of in between. It's basically a 6.5-inch. But you can slap on 7-inch props there. But right now, I'm just experimenting with the 6-inch props. And I mean, it works out perfectly for me, because it's kind of the max that those motors can handle. And as well, I mean, if I really want to freestyle it, 6-inch is not perfect for that, or well, yeah, but it's very, very locked in. And I mean, it just feels so much easier trying to freestyle with a 6-inch. But there are definitely some things you can't do with a 6-inch that you get away with a 5-inch.
Yeah. Oh, no, most definitely. And also another thing to touch on the long range stuff, I'd say if you're looking to do long range and you want to go out and about, I'd say always try and take someone who's got a little bit of knowledge, that has done a little bit of distance. Don't just try and go with a friend and be like, cool, today we're gonna go and fly on the side of a beach 2 kilometers. Rather just, I'd say, take someone who knows a little bit about long range, who's had a bit of experience with it. Because otherwise, if you go down, both of you start panicking, and then it just becomes a bit of a spool. But I mean, if you've got someone who's got the experience and the other person's flying and they start panicking, you keep that person cool, calm, and collective, and it's pretty much the best way to handle that situation. So but I mean,
anyone that's listening, please always, when you try and do long range, DVR your footage. So if you do lose your quad, review your DVR and try and kind of like locate a landmark where you went down. It makes it so much easier to try and find your quad.
Definitely. Basics for long range, a decent patch, a decent video receiver, and a good antenna on the quad, a good placement of your antennas. Make sure your patch is pointed wherever you're going, and follow a road, follow something, so that if you do go down, you can follow that on foot and find your quad. You don't want to lose the quad's a lot of money nowadays.
Yeah,
so
definitely. Like you said, follow a road or follow whatever kind of it's easy accessible. I mean, especially if you're going to take out your quad and trying to test the range out. But also very important, rapid fire. I believe solely in rapid fire. I mean, bro, I couldn't have done like anything that I've tried. I mean, I took one of my little shitty quads out and I actually sent it out. I think it was 1 kilometer, and then I lost RSSI, but I didn't have a fail-safe. So it just kept on going, and I had clear view up to where it went down, and it went down 2.5 k's further. Luckily, the battery was half when I lost RSSI. But I mean, I had clear view until it got to about 30 meters above the ground. Then I lost feed. But I reviewed the DVR, saw where I went down, and I looked for quad. It took me 1.5 days, but I found it.
At least you found it, eh? Yeah, and I'd also say if you're gonna be sending, if you send your drone out, just when you obviously busy flying out, every now and then just do a little bit of a 360 with the drone, just to make sure that your video, is solid and you've got a solid link.
Yeah, definitely.
Definitely.
But yeah, I think that's touching on long range. And I mean, if we have to move from there, speaking of patches, Ryan, going back to rapid fire, I think in general you just need to have a good module for your goggle, because if you don't have a good module, I mean, if you're going to go there, look, my experience with box goggles aren't the best, but that's what I actually wanted to ask you guys. I mean, if you guys have to speak about goggles and that, if you have to recommend a person who's starting up, obviously everybody recommends a box goggle, but I mean, if you guys have to touch bases on goggles and that, I mean, what would you guys say overall? I mean, box goggle.
For me, I wouldn't specifically recommend a goggle. I would say look at your price range, look at your budget, and also think about, are you going to buy again? Because you more than likely, if you enjoy this hobby, you will buy again. You will buy something more expensive, something that will give you better range, something that can handle the masses of the different receivers that are out there. So at the end of the day, I would say give a good think about your goggles, because if you're going to go buy R1,000 pair of box goggles at the end of the day, you might regret it. I know Andrew, Lyle, he always flies with box goggles. He never changes, but he's got a problem with one of his eyes. So when he uses 2 screens, he gets nauseous and can't see properly, and all that sort of thing. So he sticks to his box goggles, and he does long range on them. So
dude, I'm pretty impressed with these set of box goggles, and I'm pretty sure those things can hook up to a ground station, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So if he's using a box goggle for long range, is he using like the Fat Shark brand? Yeah.
No.
No. He's got
Eachine
goggles. Eachine, but it's got the diversity on there, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, it's a diversity version. That's what he's comfortable with. But then again, I've watched his feed a couple times, and when you can't see anything, Andrew can still see. That's something that's quite surprising. He will fly on the most terrible video, and he will still go through gaps, and it's just insanely impressive. But he does. He's comfortable with it. So
I saw a hack the other day on those Eachine goggles, or any goggles for that matter. There's a hack that you can literally put Fat Shark modules onto a box goggle.
Yeah, just wiring it up properly.
Yeah, you can do that. So I kind of like No,
I was gonna say, if you guys want to do that, rather just go do some YouTubing.
Yeah, sure. Make sure you know what you're doing, otherwise you might lose your goggles.
Yeah.
What you saying, Ryan?
So I kind of enjoy the whole immersive feeling of box goggles, or that box goggles gives. But it definitely felt a lot easier for me to try and hit gaps and you know, that sort of thing when I was using my Fat Shock, Dominator V3s. So that is 16.9.
Yeah, 6.9.
You know, so I could, I don't know, it just felt a lot easier for me to hit, like, let's say, for instance, gates with it, because there's not a lot going around, you know, going on around you. When you use a box goggle, you literally need to look around inside the box goggle. Whereas the Fat Shocks, everything is just placed right in front of you.
Yeah, it also depends on your eyes and your eye sockets and all that. If your eyes are deeper in, you get goggles that can adjust, but just remember, some goggles won't adjust to your IPDs. They won't go all the way. Just make sure you try it a couple pairs before you make the decision to buy that specific pair.
If I could say, shout out to Devin, Mr. Holy Havoc. Yeah, I mean, he's the one that allowed me to try on his Fat Shocks, and that's pretty much when I decided, nope, Fat Shocks are the way for me. So, yeah, I must say, I was pretty happy when I tried on his Fat Shocks, and then I think I tried on Ryan's Fat Shocks, another Ryan named Benoni, and after I tried those on, I was pretty much sold on the whole idea of getting myself Fat Shocks, and I made a plan. But yeah, box goggles are like it's like sitting in a cinema almost. Like, box goggles is a kind of goggle that you put on and you sit down in a chair and you just enjoy the flight. Like, I would like a set of box goggles if I'm doing wing flying. I think that would be the ultimate experience for me. I don't know. That's just me personally.
Whatever floats. It's personal preference at the end of the day. But you know, talking about box goggles and other goggles, and you know, a lot of things that people generally miss is your aspect ratios, which is 4:3 and 16:9, obviously.
Yeah.
And the benefits of both all depends on the person, really. Box goggles, you'll generally be 16:9 in box goggles, and a lot of your normal 2-screen goggles as well, also 16:9. The benefit of that is all personal preference as well, but you got a wider view, horizontal. 4:3, you got more of a vertical view. So I started on 16:9, and I found that 4:3 worked much better for me in the racing scene, and so that's what I ended up on at the end of the day, and I stuck to it, and I loved it.
Yeah, I must say, I think I did try on your Fat Shocks, eh? I'm pretty sure I did.
I never had Fat Shocks. I had
your Floss.
Those were the first ones were the Falcon FGO ones, which are
the Falcon, yeah.
And then I had which was 16:9, and then I had the what is that goggle? Sky Zone, the last one that came out with the upgrades and all that sort of rubbish. And that had a great receiver module in, by the way. It was an awesome goggle. And I loved that. That was a 4:3, you know.
Yeah, 4:3. Look, I must say 4:3 definitely in terms of racing, because obviously you get that, you know, I don't know how to say it, but 16:9 is super wide. Yeah, the vertical field, that's it. Because 16:9 is super wide. Look, I'm a 16:9 whore. I love my 16:9.
Yep.
But 4:3 is also quite nice. I mean, I've tried a few pairs of goggles on that's got 4:3, and it was definitely a different feeling altogether, if I could say.
The 16:9 for me was always a difficulty when it came to flying gates, and it's not like this for everybody. Don't get me wrong. The 16:9, what happened is when I would come towards the gate would be super tiny until I'm right by the gate, and then all of a sudden it becomes wide, and that's just because of the aspect ratio, right? But with 4:3, your gap stays constant, so you can line it up better, in my opinion. Obviously, I could line up the gap better. It would stay sort of size that was more real to me, in a sense. It wouldn't all of a sudden grow as I got close to it, you know, which is what happens with 16:9, unfortunately. And some people doesn't bother them, some people does, and
almost like that bubble effect, eh?
Yeah, exactly. It's a fish
Like,
eyes as it goes
yeah,
out.
fisheye. There we go, fisheye.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we lost Ryan.
Yeah, I think so.
But yeah, I'm sure he'll be joining us again just now. But yeah, I mean, just to that's goggle. I mean, at the end of the day, you just got to pretty much. It all comes down to personal preference, what you like, and also your budgets. I mean, you can't just go buy a 7,000 rand pair of goggles,
Yeah, definitely.
And also for the starting, for the guys that are starting up, I'd say if you're ever feeling, the need to look at getting different goggles, go to the racing events and ask the guys if you can try on some of their headsets. I mean, the guys are very friendly. I know the boys will let you use their goggles to obviously experience it, and I mean, also if you're going to join, try a set of box goggles on, and then I mean, if that's not your type of way, or if that's not the way you want to go, try a set of Fat Shocks on. If that's not the way you like it, try it. I mean, there's Sky Zones, there's a whole bunch of goggles that are out there on the market, and so I mean, that's pretty much the end of the day for goggles. I mean, personal preference, budget, also eyes. You got to take your eyes into consideration. If you're wearing glasses, if you're not wearing glasses, because I mean, you can't wear glasses. Look, I know you can get special those things, lenses cut out. Yeah, dipoles that you can actually slide into the Fat Shocks.
Diopters, that's it.
Diopters, yeah, that you can actually slide into the Fat Shocks. I mean, for the guys that are using, that are actually wearing goggles, not goggles, that are wearing glasses and that. So
wearing goggles.
Yeah, they see life in HD more than we do. So,
but Lyle, sorry, I'm going to take us back one more time with regard to the goggles and new guys coming into the hobby. The FPV community is friendly. If you get online, go to a couple of groups, go to an event, have a look what the guys are using. Make a decision for yourself, but please buy once, because FPV equipment does not hold its value. Never. You will sell it for 40%, 30% of what it was originally worth, or what you paid for it when you bought it new. So that is one thing. Don't buy it twice. Make sure you do all your research much as you possibly can, and that goes for everything FPV. Research is what it comes down to at the end of the day. It's going to help you with troubleshooting. It's going to help you with your first builds. It's going to help you through your entire FPV hobby. At the end of the day, make sure you do your research, otherwise you will have a bad experience, mark my words. And at the end of the day, buy once.
Yeah, I agree with you.
If your budget allows it, but geez, I must also add my 2 cents here that FPV equipment, not really everyone can afford. Everyone wants to do it, but not everyone can afford it. I mean, I started on the cheapest of cheap, and now I've got a pretty decent setup. But yeah, it doesn't always allow it cash flow wise to just go out and spend total of, let's say, I think it's 11.5K just for Fat Shocks with the rapid fire, and then you need to throw your quad and everything on top of that, and a proper transmitter. So, but yeah, definitely you got a good point there. You obviously do want to buy once. I mean, I bought 3 times before, getting it on my backside and actually learning. Listen, do it properly, because you are going to change.
Yep.
Yeah. Take
For
that time.
Budget is definitely a big thing. I know that. But what I'm saying, it's a very good point that you raised. But yeah, try as best as you can to buy once. I mean, make do equipment. Try and buy it secondhand if it is available. But well,
I mean, I also did my homework before I even thought about buying any FPV gear. I think it took me about 2-3 weeks before I actually thought, okay, cool, this is something. Look, when I saw an FPV drone, I was like, yes, this is what I want to do. But I mean, for the 2 weeks after that was pretty much me on every single forum I could find of FPV drones, and just learning about what's this, what's that. It's all about learning, and that's why I also recommend if you get into the industry, make sure that you can fix the drone as well, because if you're going to send your drone in to get fixed, you're going to be paying quite a bit as well. Well, I suppose, I mean, if you've got friends that are quite handy with this stuff, they can help you out as well, but I mean, they're not always going to be there.
Never mind paying. I mean, if you break something on a field, because you haven't been fixing your quad yourself, you're gonna be like, you're not gonna even know where to start.
Oh,
you're
yeah,
gonna be sitting next to the field with your quad on Google and trying to figure out what the hell is going on. Whereas if you worked or built a couple of quads, you can actually determine almost immediately what is wrong with your quad.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, no, well, what I meant by paying is like sending it in, sending it to the shop, getting it fixed. That's what I meant by paying. But yeah, that's why you rather just take the time, learn everything. If you have to take a couple of soldering lessons, find a board, do a couple of solders on it, and that's how you learn. So I remember recommending that to a friend once. He was very nervous to solder, and then I said to him, because he had a tattoo ESC that was pretty buggered up, I said to him, dude, take that tattoo ESC, do a couple of solders on there, and then once you feel comfortable, then you tackle your drone. And it helped him, man. Yeah. It helped him tremendously.
Does help.
I should have done that, because it costed me about 4 flight controllers, a countless of PDBs. I can solder now, but after 4 or 5 flight controllers, yeah.
I was
and
lucky.
Continuity. Please test continuity.
Yes, for sure. I was lucky. I did a bit of soldering in high school, and so for me it wasn't too difficult to get into the whole thing. I didn't break any equipment soldering it. But definitely towards the end, when I started getting rushed on my builds, I started bumping my soldering iron up to 450 degrees, and I do not recommend that, because I lost 1 or 2 not knowing why I lost them, until I realized that especially some of the new stuff that's able to handle high amp draw, that stuff heats up very quickly. As soon as you solder one joint on that ESC, that entire joint is boiling hot, and that's not very good for your ESC. You're pushing it above its temperature that it's built for, and you basically reflowing all your solder joints, and that can be a very bad thing. So make sure give your, when you solder a joint, give it a second or 2 to rest, or shouldn't say second or 2, because some people might
blow on it like a candle. Yeah, 30 seconds or so, and then move on.
Doesn't that cause cold soldering joints?
Cold solder joints is when your iron is too low and you're not creating a proper bond between the resin that's in the solder and the solder itself, flux. All that sort of thing needs to come into play. Generally 350 degrees is decent, although sometimes it might be too cold. So 380, between 350 and 380, sometimes closer to 400 depending on the situation, but I would say a safe place is 380. If you're soldering too cold, you're going to get cold solder joints, as well as you have to hold that heat on that flight controller for a lot longer than you should to get that solder to bind properly. So I would say 380.
I might be wrong, but I think the correct terminology for it is dry solder.
Dry solder, yeah. Dry solder
and all that sort of rubbish. So it's not a very strong joint at all. One tug and it comes off. Sometimes it pulls a pad along with it. And also soldering too hot destroys that glue underneath the pad. So you're going to get, you might end up with pads coming loose and then not being able to resolder on and replacing the entire unit because of that.
No, I always, after I soldered anything on, whether it's just one little wire, doesn't matter what, I always give it a little bit of a tug, just so I know, like, give me peace of mind, and then I close up the quad.
Yeah.
And speaking about soldering, I mean, you know, what soldering iron would you guys recommend? You know, TS100, but is there any other like soldering irons? Look, the TS100 is ideal. I mean, for field soldering, that thing saved my bacon so many times.
The TS100 is the be all and end all. I would say if you are able to get one, definitely go for it, because it's going to pair as your... Some guys say no, don't use it at home because you've got a full-on soldering station. It's better to use a full-on soldering station, but I never did. I used the TS100 on a LiPo pack at home in the field.
I remember that.
Was the only thing I ever used from the time that I got it. You know, so for me, I stuck to that and I loved it. I absolutely loved that soldering iron. Don't know what other things are out there because I never really did any research on other soldering irons because I was so happy with the TS100.
Yeah, I know
So,
you get the Magnum. I think you get that Magnum. I'm not too sure what the full name of it is, but that's also quite a good, decent soldering iron. I mean, look,
yeah.
I'm using a cheap Chinese one that's got a temperature controlled, gauge and whatnot. And I mean, it's better than the ones you just plug into the freaking wall and hope it heats up to a point that you're happy with. So yeah, I mean, TS100 if you've got the budget for it. Otherwise, I also don't really know any other soldering irons. I don't even know what the name of this one is of mine, man. But it's done the job. But definitely, I mean, I spent I think $280 on it, so it was a bargain at the time. But yeah, I mean,
Well,
I
stay
don't know
away
if
from
any of
Banggood. Sorry.
Yeah.
Stay away from Banggood soldering irons because a lot of the time the stuff is made for 110 volts, and it's not interchangeable between 110 and 240 or 220 like South Africa. I had a friend whose tip was red hot in the middle of summer, and in the middle of daylight you could see that tip was red hot.
Yeah.
And that's just because we were pushing 220 volts into it, not realizing that it's only made for 110. So be careful. Don't buy from Banggood when it comes to soldering irons.
noted.
Well, Banggood's got a fantastic soldering iron. They call it the Mini TS100. You basically plug in one or your battery packs into it, and that heats up to 400. I think it can go higher than that, but most of the guys, especially with racing, there's a few guys that has the soldering iron, and I've soldered a couple of joints with it, and it works like a bomb.
Isn't that the TS100?
Yeah, it's the TS100, the Mini TS100.
Yeah, it's a very small soldering iron, the TS100. You get the TS80 that can plug into a power bank, but I would say that's more for smaller joints, because when it comes to a power lead or a ESC joint,
Oh no, bro, it makes
really struggles.
good work of a XT60. If you want to solder a XT60 plug on, it makes
The TS100, yes, I
Yeah.
absolutely agree with you. But the TS80 is a different story on that. Tip is a bit too small, so your thick wire pulls all the heat from the tip, and then you have nothing left to work with.
yeah.
Yeah. So if you guys ever looking for a good soldering iron and you've got the budget TS100, you can't go wrong. You just literally get the cable that you can plug a LiPo in, and that thing goes. I mean, we've run it off 4S, and Josh, haven't you ran it off a 3S once, or just 4S?
It works up to 6S. I've run it on 6S a lot.
Yeah, I remember the install done. You whipped out a 6S pack.
And if guys are worried about it shying your batteries, you can do a whole quad with one pack easy.
Easy.
That's also
That thing
true.
is really efficient. Very, very efficient.
And then just one thing I've also been wanting to touch bases on is, out in the field, we're speaking about soldering and that, but I want to know a little bit more about charging. If you have to look at charging, I mean, you get these chargers that have got 4-port chargers that you can plug in 4 batteries, and I'd say that's quite good for the home. But I mean, what's you guys' on take about parallel charging?
Well, for me, it all depends on the amp draw of what your charger can handle, as well as the quality of that parallel board. Because if it's not a high quality one, I would try not to play with it too much, or put too many packs on it. Some of them are rated quite high, but then again, you're really putting pressure on your circuits when you're charging 6, 7, 8 batteries at a time over one lead.
Yeah.
You're putting pressure on your circuit big time. So for me, it was always in the field. I bought a lot of packs. I had at a stage I had up to 30 packs, and I would charge them all the night before and go fly them the next day, because that would generally be enough, or more than enough sometimes for me. But I know not everybody can do that, and a lot of people go out for a Saturday or a Sunday or whatever it is, and they want to fly for the whole day. Then field charging is a must, So I fully understand people using parallel boards. What I'm saying is just be careful with the quality you buy, because you could end up frying your circuit or causing a fire.
See that you're mentioning, I've never considered parallel charging until Joshua Bardwell brought out basically his own brand of parallel charging board.
Okay.
Trix V2. I don't know if you saw that before.
I've never seen it before.
It's got its own little like fuses built in, and it's got these how you say these like amperage like little man, I forget the name what you call them, but it's the most safest parallel charging board that you get. And that's the whole reason why I started like parallel charging. I mean, my method is always I just bring everything up to basically storage voltage, and then from there I just pack them in and charge. But like you say, if your charger can't handle charging 10 packs, you're gonna let's say your charger like mine can only handle 5 amps max, 6 amps. In the first place, it takes extremely long, and in the second place, your charger gets extremely hot. My charger hasn't got a fan in, so I usually cut it in half. I charge 5 packs on the board, and once they're done, then I just swap it out with the next 5 packs.
That's definitely something people need to look out for. I mean, you get these chargers and stuff that we use in the helicopters, and these things can charge up to 10 amps on a circuit. Some of them go quite a bit higher than that. You know, they're rated for higher. But generally, if we're charging a 12S pack, you know, that's a 5,000 milliamp hour, for instance, you're charging at a decent 5 amps on each 6 cell. So a 12S pack is generally just 6 cells packed together, and we charge them 5 amps over 2 different circuits. We don't really try and parallel charge, especially if we're putting pressure on the circuit. Although the circuits can handle a lot more, we try not, you know, because those chargers are quite expensive.
Yes.
At the end of the day, for me, parallel charging, I never did it. I was always too scared of it, really. And also, I had a quad charging charger that could run off of DC power as well. And for me, that worked great. I could charge in the field 4 batteries at a time. I could run them at each at 2C, 2.5, 3C sometimes, and I would charge them like that when I was at the field, and at home, standard 1C charge, just to give them that normalization again and a decent balance. And that was what I was about, you know.
No, I don't think I've ever played around with parallel charging other than when I had the Whoop. And I charged 10 batteries off a board there, but
0.1 amps. 0.1
amp. So nothing can even actually happen. But you know, I mean, it's taken into consideration. Just be safe if you do parallel charging. I mean, that's I think the most important thing. I think we've all had our fair share of seeing people that's had incidents, online, about parallel charging, and you know, you see pictures of like corners of black rooms with black corners, and so I mean,
that goes for any type of LiPo charging though. Even if you're not parallel charging, make sure you stand by. Make sure you have the safety in place, because if you go out and you leave your packs charging, that stuff can burn your house down.
Yeah,
and it
literally.
will. It's a LiPo pack doesn't play. It doesn't ask if it you know,
if
can
it's
have
okay
permission. That doesn't ask for permission. If that thing decides it's going to burn now, it's going to burn, and that's just something you need to be aware of.
Everyone swears. Sorry, Lyle. Everyone swears on lipo bags, and I've seen countless of videos that look. It's a 50-50, percent chance that a lipo bag will actually contain the fire. But if you go and look at the videos online, most of these things also just burst open and basically add more material to catch flame.
Yep.
I mean, my most simple and easiest solution is I just put it in my kitchen on the granite top. It's away from any wood. It's away from everything. I mean, Jesus, if that thing can burn a granite top, which is fucking impossible, but
it can. Yeah. It'll leave a mark, that's for sure.
It will char it a bit, and you can polish it out again. But I mean, that is my method. I just put it on a granite top, away from wood, away from anything else. And knock yourself out.
I had an incident with the LiPo, not charging or anything, but just to give you an idea of how hot those things can burn. I plugged in my quad, full battery, HV charged, and it was a 1550 I took off. I did one maneuver over the tree, and somebody else plugged their quad in. I lost my video totally, and I hit the only tarmac path that's in that entire path. Entire park, and the carbon fractured and punctured the lipo, and it was quite a sight to see. Lyle, you were there, weren't you?
No, I saw the videos.
Okay. Well, this thing lit up, and there was pink and purple and blue and all types of funny colors of smoke and flames coming out of that thing. I lost the GoPro thanks to that, as well as I lost the entire quad. It burnt so hot that the carbon that was directly under it actually melted. So I did some research afterwards. The resin on the carbon melts at 800 degrees Celsius. Okay, which is something I didn't know. I always thought resin melted a lot sooner than that, and I'm pretty sure you do get resins that do. But that resin melted, as well as the carbon fiber itself melted. And I did some research on the carbon fiber melting point, which is well over 1,000 degrees. I think it's 1,300 or something degrees. Can't remember the exact number, but just to give you an idea of how hot that specific lipo burnt on that specific day. I'm not saying they all burn that hot, but if they all do, and it was fully charged, it makes a difference. That thing burnt hot, very, 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 very hot. And I lost the quad thanks to a lipo burning, but it was more the fault of the person who plugged their quad in while I was flying. So sad day, but lipos are dangerous.
I'd kind of lose my shit in a situation like that. I mean, it's basically, how can you say, like common sense when you are a group of guys and clapping a whole session for the day. Everyone knows, do not touch your quad when someone's in the air. I mean,
some guys get overexcited and they don't really look around them and listen to what's going on, and they plug in their quad to quickly sort out a fault. And it's happened at race days, multiple of them, where people on the sidelines plug in their quad to quickly do some repairs or check that the repairs they've done are fine, and there's guys racing and somebody's quad falls out the sky because this guy didn't think or didn't look around and assess his situation. So it comes down to everybody just being aware of what's going on. Don't
be a dumbass.
Yeah, shit happens. It's one of those things, man. You're going to lose equipment in FPV, and if you're not willing to, then it's probably not the hobby for you at the end of the day. I'm not saying it's going to be your luck specifically to lose an entire quad to a burning flame or to a long range mission or whatever it is, but the possibility is always there of something happening. So definitely, guys, just stay aware and
be considerate of others.
Definitely.
Don't just think like when you're at a field and you're busy flying and you're just like, I'm plugging in. Make sure that the other person is, that they are aware that you're plugging in. Don't just go be like, I'm plugging in, and then you plug in, and then the person's quad falls out the air and then they're like, wow, what the hell? And then you're like, but I said I'm plugging in. The other person that's plugging in needs to be considerate and be like, okay, dude, are you close by? Can I plug in? Those are the things you need to take into consideration as well.
Yeah. Now, when we hit a bando, let's say we're a group of 6 guys. There's not ever more than 2 people flying at that time. So what we do is the 2 oaks that are gonna go now, it's their turn or it's their session now. We plug both quads in on the ground, make sure we don't have any bleeding into each other's feed, and then once we're happy with that, then we go ahead and hit it. The other guys sit, they tune into your channel and they watch, and then come back after 3 minutes, and then it's their turn.
It can also be extremely dangerous for somebody to plug in because, some of these quads, especially racing quads or some of your heavier freestyle rigs, you can build up quite a lot of speed, and if that quad hits somebody, especially if it's a 5-inch or up, it can do some serious damage. We had to rush Andrew to the hospital because some woman let her dog off the leash, and he tried to dodge the dog, and the result of that was him flying into his own face. The quad, which is an Armaton Rooster, the hardest quad that you can possibly fly into your face. It was just
with Dell props,
with Dell cyclones, which punctured into his skull. Well, not through the bone, but it went under the skin a decent 2 inches in, and he had to get a couple stitches from that. It can be very dangerous. I mean, if the propeller can go that deep into your head, then it can definitely go that deep into your neck or anywhere else that's quite vital to you being alive.
It will take your eye out. I mean, it'll
take your aorta, your arteries out, and you'll end up dead on the spot. And it's a very, very real thing. It's a very real possibility.
Definitely.
So be safe out there. Make sure.
And I bet no one wants to be part of the Darwin Awards.
No, for sure.
No. Especially not with a drone.
No.
But make sure you guys are safe out there. Establish some rules on the day and with the people that you're flying, that nobody flies too close, nobody plugs in. Make sure everybody understands the dangers and the possibilities of something actually, and work off of that. Just use common sense. At the end of the day.
Just be safe, be cautious. Just keep others in consideration. I mean, these quads are going at 100 kilometers per hour sometimes. Freestyle quads between 60 to 80. The racing, we're looking 120 plus.
Yeah.
If there's anybody listening to this quad pod and they walking their dogs, make sure that you've got your dog on a leash, especially if there's guys busy flying drones. Because every single park I read the signs, and every single park I've come across says keep your dog on a leash. Because I mean, every person's dog is friendly until you take them off the leash, and pretty much destination fucked.
Yeah. So what I want to mention is FDL Masters coming up. That's a very select few pilots that competed in FDL 03. They had a competition running also on liftoff with those who didn't make it. So on liftoff, you'd go, and whoever sets the fastest time will then get invited to FDL Masters. It will be taking place at Diggers Rugby Club from 10 a.m. until 10 p.m. at night. Spectators are only welcome from 1600 hours, and of course there is a bar with drinks. So you'll find me there, not because I'm invited, but just solely because there's a bar with some drinks.
Yeah, well, if I was back in the country, that's definitely the first place I would go. There's alcohol laws here in Saudi that say no alcohol. That's the short and long of it all. So winding down after a day's work is impossible. But the bar does sound tempting, man.
Bloody hell, no alcohol, I'd die.
I don't really think I think we've got regionals coming up in Capetown soon. I'm not too sure. I know we've got a race every month that tries to happen. But I haven't actually been up to speed with that. Jaden would have probably been able to tell us a little bit more information. But if you guys do want to find out anything or find out about any events, just hit up the Facebook page. I mean, the FPV Drone Racing South Africa is pretty clued up, and the guys normally keep that up to date. I think we've also got a group, freestyle drones or something, also on Facebook, FPV Freestyles. The guys also post on there. Also, what's going on? So that FTL, when did you say it was again, and how can we find out a little bit more information about it?
It will be taking place on, sorry, I didn't mention it, on Saturday the 22nd of June.
Okay, that's pretty cool. And where's it being hosted? Where's the bar? Or where's the
where's the bar? That's the first one. It's at the Diggers Rugby Club.
Diggers Rugby Club, and that is in?
I have no idea, but that's the wonderful thing about Google Maps.
Yeah. Just Diggers Rugby Club. There we go.
Yeah.
But I think on that one, guys, I'm pretty satisfied with everything. Unless you guys want to touch on any more thing, Josh, you've got anything?
No, I'm all good for this one.
Yeah, no, I want to touch on a couple of things, but nothing to do with the podcast.
Okay, that's fantastic. All right, guys. Well, thanks again, Josh. I really appreciate you for coming and joining us on this quad pod, man. Hopefully we'll be seeing you some more on here. But yeah, hopefully the next one it will be back in action with myself, Ryan, and Jaden. And yeah, we'll definitely catch you guys on the next episode.
Yeah, I appreciate you filling in, Josh.
It's a big pleasure. I hope some of the things I said are useful to some people.
No, dude, definitely not.
Well, in
Definitely
that case, I'll just go, try and find some illegal alcohol.
Let's hope nobody in Saudi hears it, eh?
Let's hope so. But
All right,
yeah,
guys.
thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah.
Great. Have a
Thanks
lekker
again.
evening further.
You too, man. Alright, guys, and that's the end of session 3, Quad Pod. And yeah, we'll catch you guys on the flip flop. Peace out.